Peanut was the best thing that ever happened to us. And we got confirmation that they put him down. I want to continue to fight this fight as much as I can, but we need all of you to come together and help us. Please continue to help us raise money for the ongoing legal battles and for our nonprofit so we can keep Peanut's name alive. Thank you all.
Now, I know you might be confused. What are they talking about, right? Well, if you've been on social media, you may have seen this family with their pet Squirrel once or twice while browsing. I saw this a few times before, and I was just amazed at how sweet and loving their pet was. His name's Peanut, and sadly, he was taken by the New York authorities due to rabies concerns. Even though he's been living with this couple for 7 long years. Authorities only took notice because Peanut became an internet sensation. Before we get any further, we're being told by guys like Elon Musk that this is the government under democratic rule, which can be described simply as government overreach. Peanut was rescued by Mark Longo, the man you saw in the earlier video. He saw Peanut's mother get killed by a car in New York, which led him to care for him for the next 8 months before trying to release him back into the wild. More than 24 hours after release, and Peanut came back with a broken bone sticking out of his tail. Now, obviously, they grew attached to the squirrel, and he quickly found out that the little guy wasn't going to make it out in the wild without him. So he adopted him. Watch.
Mark Longo says he was blindsided on Wednesday morning when agents from the State Department of Environmental Conservation came looking for his famous squirrel.
I was just going through my daily routine of feeding all of our 71 rescue horses at our nonprofit animal rescue. Midway through that, a line of DEC officers, about 6 to 8 of them, showed up and gave me a warrant for a squirrel and a raccoon.
The search warrant said Longo was in unlawful possession of wildlife. He says agents ransacked his property for 5 hours until they found Peanut and Fred the raccoon.
We complied. We weren't allowed to move. We were police escorted into the bathroom. Mind you, this is a search warrant for a squirrel and a raccoon. And I feel like this was a little bit of an overkill.
Longo says he was working on the necessary paperwork to be able to legally own Peanut as an educational animal.
You're not only hurting my family by taking Peanut away from me, but you're also hurting the organization that we started on the back of a rescue squirrel. We named this organization Peanut's Freedom Farm because he has been such a big portion of my life and so many people around the world. You know, we promoted the fact that squirrels are not good pets. They don't deserve to be inside, but there are rare occasions where you stumble on an animal that unfortunately can't survive in their normal habitat. That's the only reason why Peanut was ever a rescue animal.
Longo says he rescued Peanut 7 years ago in New York City after the squirrel's mom was hit by a car. He says he rehabbed Peanut and tried to release him into his backyard. But Longo says Peanut never developed the instincts to survive outside.
Sending almost 10 officers to apprehend a squirrel and raccoon is crazy work. And for them to ransack the place knowing that they've put up a nonprofit that helps the community makes things even worse. And to add to that, guys, they got a warrant for a squirrel and a raccoon. Knowing New York, you would think that they'd have time to make warrants for other people, not animals whose these people considered pets. They've got crime going on in their city, but they would rather use their time and their resources to apprehend these animals. Like real animals, not the animals out in the street. Animals that Longo said were funding this nonprofit of theirs heavily. So they're doing the job of the government while the government screws them over. That makes total sense, right? They have their priorities straight, if straight was a crooked line. And I want to point out something that's very clear here. The owners of Peanut were told not to move without permission for 5 long hours. According to him, they raided his home as if he was a terrorist, as if he was like a drug dealer or something. Now, just imagine how his pets felt. Their home was suddenly invaded by strangers who wanted to take them away. One officer was supposedly bitten by the squirrel as he was being apprehended, a normal reaction from any animal that's being taken away against its will. I would figure that the same reaction would have been received from a cat or a dog. But because of this, New York State was able to justify the euthanasia for both squirrel and raccoon to test for rabies. This best exemplifies the saying, "We are from the government, we're here to help." Now, what's ironic is that Peanut was killed by the Department of Environmental Conservation. I'm guessing a lot of supporters of Peanut would suggest a different name for them given the situation. But we gotta ask, why now? He's been with Peanut for 7 long years. Why hand them a warrant now? Well, according to the updates, multiple anonymous sources reported Longo having a wild animal in his home. So they're going off of a rule that they have in New York, even though it's clear that this pet was not a threat. Funny how the rules change within the Democratic rule book every now and then. For a party that thrives on emotion and feelings and joy and nitpicking every single thing before making a decision, they sure decided quickly with Peanut, didn't they? And it's safe to say that the people are pissed. More so now, given that the owner of Peanut confirmed that the DEC didn't even have the decency to inform them of the sudden euthanasia.
Who do you think dimed you out on this? Who do you think, Mark, who, like they said for rabies? I mean, I looked up when I heard about this, you know, I had seen your videos, by the way. My senior producer, Jonathan, called me about it, but I had seen it. People loved it. I mean, you know, it's one of the good things about social media. I mean, you did a great job with this animal. So I look up rabies, and they're pretty severe symptoms and demonstrations of behavior. Couldn't they have just observed the squirrel and the raccoon and said, well, they don't look rabid? And who told them that they might be rabid?
Sir, there's a quarantine period that is supposed to be happening. We did not hear from the DEC. We didn't even get a statement from the DEC. We heard it from another news station that they killed Peanut. Since they left my house, not a single DEC employee or state official even called me to tell me what happened. They came into my house. They even asked my wife for immigration status. They asked me if I had cameras in my house. They got local sheriffs to approve this. The DA approved this. They had a criminal judge sign a search warrant to come and take these animals. The woman who claimed, or the member who claimed to get bitten, everybody around here wore gloves. These are professionals who deal with animals on a daily basis, and you're going to tell me you got bit by a squirrel?
Do any of you guys find this surprising? And is Elon Musk right about saying this is clear government overreach?
Well, I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of Peanut the squirrel. God rest his tiny soul. Not since the squirrel that was taught to water ski has a squirrel caught the nation's attention like this one. Now, this squirrel was squirrel napped and murdered by the state of New York. An absurd abuse of government overreach. There are 40 million rats or something in New York, and they executed the only one trained to wear a cowboy hat and had an Instagram account. My condolences to Mark Longo, who cared for Peanut for 7 years. And to the cowardly neighbors who filed the complaints about Mr. Longo's animals, which also included Fred the raccoon, I ask, why are you the way that you are? I hope you're happy, you monsters.
Now, speaking of shocking, guys, did you hear what President Joe Biden recently said about Trump supporters? He called all of them garbage, a comment that Kamala Harris is now backpedaling on as it may completely derail her entire campaign. Now, I covered this in a previous video that I urge you guys to watch next. This next 4 years could either make or break our country, so it's really important to stay informed, guys. But as always, thanks so much for hitting the like button and subscribing. Check out this video here next, and I'll see you guys on the next one.